Dominic Littlewood is a TV presenter who's appeared on our screens since the early 2000s, fighting for justice for those whose lives have been ruined by fraud, bad builders and rogue tradesmen, most famously in the TV programme Cowboy Builders. And Ed Fisher is head of fraud at Nationwide Building Society, and they're both here to discuss their experiences with rogue traders and how they've helped people out of these situations. How are you both doing today?
Morning, Toby. This is Dominic. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, morning. Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you.
So, first of all, Dominic, what actually is a rogue trader? How would you describe that term?
Well, actually, it's not just a rogue trader. There's also an awful lot of rogue emails and scams coming through as well. So there's lots. Rogue is something which is affecting us in lots of different ways. I mean, you've got various different things you've got to look out for. Fraud is a criminal act, as we know, where someone's trying to deceive you and take your money. Scams are where you're being tricked into making payments or clicking on a link. And then you've got phishing, where people are trying to steal your data. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. And there's lots of different ways where you can try and protect yourself, as you know, Ed from Nationwide will tell you as well. You know, so it's about, I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. Don't get me wrong, Toby. This is something where we're saying, you know, we are getting good at it, but every now and again we just need that little bit of a sort of wake-up call and just a reminder to be vigilant and do our due diligence.
And a lot of these people aren't actually working on their own, are they? There's perhaps a gang of criminals, if you like.
Well, I think you find that almost in all scams and rogues, most people probably aren't working alone. We've got the one now which, you know, everyone's aware of, the knock at the door, the person happening to be working down the street offering a discount, you know. Yeah. I think as a nation we're pretty astute with that one, and you know, there are still scams happening, but everybody's sort of up their game a little bit now. So, you know, these people will appear to be more professional. They might have a van with some lovely sign writing on it, might even have business cards. Doesn't mean that they are genuine, doesn't mean they can be trusted. You just have to make sure you know who you're dealing with. But basically, scams work for one of two reasons. You either falsely trust the person you're dealing with, or you falsely trust the way that you're being communicated with, which is quite often when the email scams come in.
Yeah. Ed, being scammed is kind of easier than you think, isn't it? Because you always hear stories about people who are like, I'd never fall for that, and then they do.
Well, that's it. Unfortunately, yes, you know, statistically, there are going to be some people this week that fall for one of these scams, and that's the reason that we're raising this awareness. And as Dominic says, we are getting better, we are getting more vigilant, but, you know, we've done some surveys recently. So we surveyed 3,000 people recently, and more than half, it's actually 54% have had that knock at the door saying there was some sort of problem, you know, or maybe the driveway, the guttering, the roof, that there was something needed doing. And what they're doing is they're trying to put you under pressure. They're trying to make you make a quick decision. They're quite often going to say, you know, we're working locally in the area, but you've got to really be on your guard, because you don't want to commit under pressure. You want to get several quotes in writing. You want to make sure everything's documented and agreed up front. And you certainly don't want to pay up front, because then you've really got no leverage at all. That same survey also said that 44% of people had some work done, and actually it was to such a poor standard that it did need fixing. You know, and that's the kind of thing that we, as Dominic says, we're all getting better. We're all getting more vigilant. Most people are prepared to spend a bit of time looking for research, looking for reviews, etc. But unfortunately, some people will still get caught out. So we want to make sure that everybody's on their guard.
Yeah. Sometimes, though, you might hire somebody to do some work and it's just not very good, but you wouldn't go as far as calling it a scam, maybe.
Well, that's right. You know, we've got to be clear. You know, not all these tradespeople are actually scammers or criminals. You know, but unfortunately, the scammer or the criminal is in there as well. You know, and they are looking to take you for a ride. So, you know, some of the things to watch out for are those things like they don't want to give you a quote. There's pressure. There's urgency. They can start now. You've got to question, really. You know, why is it they can start now? Why aren't they booked up? The good trades are usually booked up, you know, for quite a little way in advance. It's actually the ones you're struggling to sort of get a slot with that are probably the more trustworthy one. Can you find references? All those sorts of things. Can you go on social media? Nowadays, pretty much everybody's got a footprint. You know, there'll be something on Trustpilot or a review site, or maybe on one of the social media platforms of work they've done. If they're saying they're working locally, then you could probably go around and actually knock on that person's door and just ask if they don't mind showing you what the work was that they did. So, as I say, most people are now prepared to be that bit more cautious. But we want to make sure that everybody is being as cautious as they can be.
And then, if you think you have been scammed, what can you do?
One of the things that we also want to make sure people are aware of is, let's say you do take those precautions and you're comfortable with the work that's done. One of the things we want to watch out for is it's getting increasingly common to communicate by email. An invoice coming in by email or sending the bank details by email. We want to make sure that people are still being vigilant when they're making the payment, because actually a lot of people, that's around 35% in our survey, didn't realise that emails could be intercepted or emails could be hacked. So what you want to do is make sure that even if you, as Dominic said, even if you've established you can trust the person or the tradesperson, you want to make sure you can trust the email as well. Best way to do that is just make sure that you're dealing with them. Give them a call back. Give them a call back on a number that you know is them, and that you know the email hasn't been compromised. If you bank with Nationwide, we can also make those checks for you. You can pop into one of our branches, or you can make sure you read the warnings online. You can give us a call 24/7. We can check all of those details for you and make sure that you don't fall victim to one of those scams by email.
Yeah. And Dominic, I suppose a lot of what you do on Cowboy Builders is tracking down these rogue tradespeople and finding out who they are and what they're actually up to.
Well, actually, that's getting a lot easier for people now because, of course, nearly everybody's got access to email and the internet. So if you're trying to track down a trader, you can start off with, exactly as Ed said there, with social media, with review sites, etc. Yeah. I mean, if you employed somebody and they gave you a business trading address, you could even look up that address using Street Map or Google Earth. You could literally go to the exact door where they say they're living and working. If it turns out there's no garage there or no workshops or whatever they might or meant to be, you can very easily check on them. So I would say that the secret here is, of course, is not just taking or not falling for the pressure they might be putting you under, and just do a little bit of research. Just check what's happening. There's an awful lot of things which are very easy and they're common sense. But as I say, Toby, common sense isn't that common.
Yeah. Well, where can we go to find out more information all about this?
Well, one of the best things you can do. So if you go on nationwide.co.uk, at the top there in our search bar, you can just type in rogue traders, or you could even type in email hack, one of those two things. But rogue traders is probably the easiest one to remember. And that will come up with a number of links. The top link there is a great article on how you can protect yourself, what to watch out for, and what you can do.
Excellent. Well, many thanks to both of you for joining us today.
Thanks, Toby. You have a great day.
Thank you, Toby.